the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Thursday, March 26th. The war in Iran continues. I will have an update for you on that, and we will cover a bunch of other things that are happening in the United States and around the world. But, thanks for joining. Don't forget to ask questions. Don't forget to support the show with stickers. Thank you, Stephen Harper, for getting us going with that. All right, so... this weird negotiations going on between the United States and Iran. Iran says there's no negotiations. The United States says there is. Trump keeps saying they're begging me for a deal. They want a deal so badly. They beg for a deal. And yet the Iranians are saying, no, we're not interested in a deal. There is communication between the two sides. That has been confirmed. So Trump's 15-point plan was sent to the Iranians, and the Iranians basically came back and said, we're not even going to negotiate this. This is way too far from anything we would agree to. Come back with something more reasonable, and maybe we'll negotiate. There's still stories about J.D. Vance going to Pakistan to negotiate. I doubt that will happen. I doubt he's going to go. Maybe he'll stop by in India to see his in-laws or to see his in-laws' family. But I'm skeptical about any meetings going on in Pakistan. The reality is, who you're negotiating with in Iran? Is there one power center? Is there one decision maker? The supreme leader is AWOL. We have no idea where he is, whether he's even conscious, whether anybody's in communication with him. We just don't know. He might be. The Speaker of the House, the Speaker of the Parliament seems to be the guy responding to the U.S. and that Trump claims to be negotiating with. But does he have the power in Iran? Probably not. It's probably the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And he is a real hardliner. He will go down. He will go down as a jihad. He will go down dying, in flames. He's not going to negotiate a surrender at this point. So, it's all just a scam. I think it's Trump making stuff up, and maybe some moderates in Iran reaching out, but then not really having the power to implement anything. But I think a lot of it is just powered by Trump. And he wants to be able to say, see, I tried, I negotiated, I tried. They didn't want it. So, we'll have to question them. Stories are right now that Trump is leaning towards a major ground operation in Iran. I don't know what that means, major ground operation. I assume that means taking some of the islands and maybe the coastline. Which islands, whether they really will do the coastline. Coastline is hard. Islands are hard. It's all hard once you put troops on the ground. But it's not clear. But there is talk about him leaning towards a major ground operation in Iran. He's convinced the country will capitulate. Of course, he was convinced of that weeks ago. So, I don't know. And hopefully nobody's trusting Trump's instincts on these things one way or the other. The United States is bombing like crazy, basically all the Islamic Revolutionary Guards bases along the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. There's massive bombardment. This has been going on now for days, but it continues, softening up the targets. If there is going to be a land invasion, even if they don't, if they take the islands, these are the bases from which the islands will get support. These are the bases from which they might get artillery fire. So flattening these bases before they put boots on the ground makes complete sense. We will see. Supposedly, the tunnels that they use to launch their speedboats are still intact. it'll be interesting to see what the story is there and why they haven't targeted those yet. Maybe they need the B-52s over there. Maybe that's the next stage, is being the B-52s to pummel these tunnels and whatever's being dug out where they're holding the boats. They've got the boats there. So that is going on. In the meantime, overnight, the IDF eliminated the top commander of the Iranian Navy. I guess of the Navy of the Revolutionary Guard. I don't know if there are two navies in Iran. There are two armies, but I'm not sure if there are two navies. Anyway, they killed the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Navy, as well as the head of the intelligence of the Air Force. I mean, these people don't learn. These people are idiots. They held a meeting with all the senior Navy people. Came to a meeting. It was secret. Nobody knew about it. It was really, really secret. They had super, you know, what do you call it? Security over this. Israel, of course, knew exactly when and where it was happening. They had precise intelligence, and they bombed the place and killed them all. This was in Bandar Abbas. If you remember the map I showed you, Bandar Abbas is like right in the Straits of Hormuz on the Iranian side. So where the land goes like that, it's like right up here. It is very, very, very far away from Israel. Unless they're flying over Saudi Arabia. That would make it closer. They haven't been, as far as we know, they've been flying over Syria and maybe Jordan and into Iraq, but maybe Saudis are allowing them to fly. But basically, they made it all the way to Bandar Abbas. This is usually the territory of the U.S. In order to kill him, which is interesting. It really does seem like part of the division of labor in this war is Israel does the assassinations. Israel takes out the leaders. You know, at some point after this war is done, it would be an interesting question to ask why that is. Is it a legal issue that the United States doesn't want to be perceived as killing political leaders and generals and things like that, and Israel doesn't care? I wonder if that's it. Is it just because Israel has the intelligence and it's easier for them just to execute on their own intelligence, and maybe they don't even want to share that intelligence with the U.S.? It really will be interesting at some point to find out, but clearly from everything we're seeing, every time IRGC senior person or a regime senior person is killed, it's with an Israeli bomb from an Israeli airplane that's doing it. Now, Israel is a little worried, because you don't know with Trump, right, that Trump might end this in the next few days. So they are definitely devoting resources right now to bombing whatever's left to bomb in Iran. So they're devoting more airplanes. They were diverting many airplanes to dealing with Hezbollah in Lebanon. I think that's slowed down a little bit. They want to focus all their efforts on Iran just in case Hezbollah can wait. They're going after everything. To a large extent, they want to make sure that the infrastructure the Iranians have to build missiles is devastated. By the way, the same is happening on the U.S. side. The command has been spend the next 48 hours just going after the Iranians. Any target you haven't targeted, any targeted that needs to be pummeled again, now's the time to do it, just in case, right? So they're going after anything left in terms of industry, missiles, drones, remnants of nuclear. They are taking out anything that can be used later on to build more of this, right? They are, they're attacking, they continue to attack missile depots. They had a problem the last few days finding the missile launchers and the missiles going to Israel because of weather. There's significant cloud coverage. Weather was bad over Iran. Weather's clearing up a little bit, and so they're engaged again in finding those missile launchers and going after them. This is how bad it is right now in Iran, right? This is a rumor, and my guess is it's just a rumor because I don't believe this is true. But the rumor is that Israel has been dropping from airplanes, I guess, canned fish, cans of canned fish, in areas where the Basij or the IRGC soldiers are, and they might be hungry, and they're dropping them food. And when they open the cans blow up and kill them. And I've seen several stories now about exploding canned food in Iran. Now, I doubt it's true, because I don't think Israel would do that, given that some random person, a child, could be picking up these and opening. I don't think Israel would risk that. But it's funny that people think that is possible, that Israel's, instead of beepers, canned food. Why not? And they're killing off like the Basij and the IRGC. Part of the rumor, part of it is good because it emboldens the Iranians maybe to go after these people. Anyway, who knows? But I don't believe it's true. As I said, there have been low-flying aircraft all over Iran in many, many cities. I'm reading here 10 different cities. Targeted assassinations. There was one I saw in Isfahan. We don't know who it was. The Navy commander was in Bandar Abbas. So the strike campaign continues, broadens industrial capacity, military infrastructure, maritime assets, command nodes, and whatever's left and whatever they can identify. Look, the generals are all hiding in bunkers deep somewhere. And I think Israel's constantly trying to find those places and do what it can to attack them. Some of those might need bunker-busting bombs that only the Americans have, but they're hunting them down and trying to find them. When they bomb the bases, when they bomb the command and control, they're mostly killing soldiers, right? The generals are not with the soldiers. Generals are cowards. The generals are hunkering down. They're hiding. They're hiding to the extent that they can. But it's going to be important to get rid of as many of them as possible. In particular, I think at this point, going after the new head of the IRGC is going to be important. It was official, supposedly, that the United States asked Israel to take off its assassination list the foreign minister and the Speaker of the House, so that Trump could continue to negotiate with them. He didn't want them killed by the Israelis while he's negotiating with them. So they were taken off the list for a while, for 4 days. We'll see what happens afterwards. They are, I think, less important than getting the hierarchy of the IRGC. It would be great if they could find Khamenei's son and kill him, the new supreme leader, throw the regime into real panic and into a quandary in terms of who to choose next. I'd say, my top candidates would be IRGC senior people and the mullahs, like clerics. You got to go after the clerics. They are the ones who have managed this regime. They're the ones who make it a theocracy. And they're the ones responsible for all the evils of this regime. Get rid of the clerics. The senior clerics should all be killed. And then, them and generals. All right, what else? Yeah, I mean, the UAE is suggesting that they would join the ground operation with the U.S. against Iran. Now, I don't know how good their soldiers are. They've got a couple of 100,000, I think. Saudi Arabia has also suggested they might join a ground operation. So you might see UAE and Saudi troops. I doubt that they would be in the first wave. They're not trained. I don't think U.S. forces and their forces have trained together. Command and control stuff, I don't think they'd be in the first wave. Maybe they come up afterwards. Maybe they help hold ground once it's taken. I don't know. But the fact that they're willing to say that they're willing to participate is pretty amazing. They're also pretty strong about they will definitely be engaged with opening up the Hormuz Strait. They've also said, Donald Trump, do not cut a deal with Iran without us. The Gulf states are demanding a seat at the table. They want direct involvement in any agreement, and they are really, 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 mad at the Iranians for targeting their civilian infrastructure. They claim that 85% of Iranian attacks hit the Gulf countries, and they want to be involved, and they don't want what they don't want. The nightmare scenario for the Gulf states: Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, is Trump gives the Strait of Hormuz to to the Iranians. That would be a disaster. That would be they lost the war, right? We'll get to that. Again, UAE is demanding total victory. They're demanding the regime in Iran fall, and they're willing to help make that happen. So from the air, the Pentagon is planning a final kind of massive bombing campaign that should be happening right now, maybe today, tomorrow. I think the deadline, when is Trump's deadline over? I think Saturday, the 5-day deadline. I don't know what happens then. Does he actually go after the electrical facilities? I don't think he's ready to launch ground offensive this weekend. I think that will probably wait until next week, but I can't be sure. I think there's still, troops moving into the area, but they're definitely going after the Iranians full on. As I said, that's that. That is that. Yeah, I mean, 6 Arab nations issued a joint statement against Iran today. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait. I mean, Qatar is in there, right? Kuwait, UAE, Bahrain, and Jordan. Jordan's not a Gulf state, but is an Arab state. So who's not here? Who's not here? I guess Oman is not there, but Jordan. Okay, collectively, they condemned Iranian attacks in the strongest terms. They invoked the UN Charter and Article 51's right to self-defense. They called out Iranian sleeper cells and Hezbollah-linked networks operating inside their countries. The statement demands Iraq shut down militia attacks launched from its territory. So a big part of this war has been the Shiite Iranian-affiliated militias in Iraq. The U.S. has just tried to decimate them, but they have been launching attacks on the Americans, on some of the Gulf states, on Jordan, in an attempt to defend Iran. So it's a big deal. So they want the Iraqis to clamp down on them and to shut them down. I mean, another real positive of this war could be that those militias are shut down, and maybe Iraq can become a normal country. That would be good. That'd be good. Iran, in the meantime, is saying, even if you come out of the Straits of Hormuz, we are not going to give in, and we're going to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb. That's the straits at the Red Sea that the Houthis control. We're going to shut them down. We're going to get the Houthis involved, and they're going to shut down those straits. So far, the Houthis have stayed silent in terms of involvement. They've spoken in terms of supporting Iran, but they haven't done anything. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually do get involved. The Houthis are pretty weak. They can't be supplied by the Iranians right now. The U.S. Navy's in between them and Iran. I think that's why they're not participating. If the Iranians want them to close the Bab el-Mandeb straits there, I wonder whether they can do it, and whether a significant bombing campaign by the United States wouldn't just eviscerate them. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of another one of those campaigns. All right, we talked about by the way, the guy they killed, who's the head of the Navy, he was the guy overseeing the whole straits. He was the guy strategizing about how to close the straits and overseeing the whole Straits of Hormuz strategy. Again, yeah, that's we've talked about that. This is a little bit of context, which is interesting. Talked about that. All right. Just to give you a little bit of context in terms of how this war is going, again, so many negative stories, so much stupidity out there. Iran is winning, Iran is this. In 1991, the United States amassed a huge military force on the Kuwaiti border to try to kick Iraq out of Kuwait. You remember Iraq invaded Kuwait, burnt their oil fields, trashed, stole everything, just destroyed the place. And the United States, in order to basically defend Kuwait, you could ask why we were defending Kuwait. That's a different question. But basically amassed a huge force, international force, on the border there to try to to push the Iraqis out. And of course, they did that. But just to give you a sense of how that war went on, before any ground operations began, the United States and Allied air forces conducted a 37-day preparatory air war against the Iraqi forces. That was 17th of January till the 23rd of February, 37 days. They flew over 100,000 sorties, dropped in excess of 85,000 tons of bombs. Right? Now, note this next statistic, and note how different this is from the current war. In 1991, the American Air Force suffered 46 killed or missing, 8 captured, these are pilots, 52 fixed-wing aircraft, and 23 helicopters lost. That's big numbers. 52 fixed-wing aircraft, 32 helicopters lost. How many in this war? I mean, was it 2 or 3 for friendly fire? That's it. That's it. The Iranians have not downed a single plane, a single helicopter, even though helicopters are now being used in the Straits of Hormuz, together with the A-10. And not a single U.S. Air Force asset has been lost, which is pretty amazing. And if you look at the Israelis who have to fly long distances to get to Iran and have to be refueled on the way. The Israelis who've been doing this day in, day out since the war began and did it for 12 days during June have lost exactly, and I know this with precision, 0 airplanes, 0 pilots, 0 military personnel at all. I mean, this is such an overwhelming, one-sided dominance that, I mean, the world should be looking at this and saying, whoa, the U.S. and Israel are dominating Iran. They're crushing Iran. Yes, Iran is still around. They haven't capitulated. They're still lobbing missiles blindly into civilian areas. But they've lost. They can't do anything. Israel and the United States can keep the status quo and keep going after them for months without losing anybody. Now, Israel wouldn't want that because they're harassing Israel, and we don't want that because the Straits of Hormuz are closed. But those are economic issues. Militarily, this is over. Was over day one, and it's just more over. And it's one of the most dominant military campaigns in all of human history. And anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, it's true. We've talked about this many, many times. There should have been a plan much earlier, implemented much earlier, to secure the Straits of Hormuz, to stop them from blocking it, all of that, absolutely. Strategic error. But that does not diminish the unbelievable success of the U.S. and Israeli militaries. Now, let's see, again, if Trump allows this to go all the way to the ultimate, which is regime change, or at least a surrender. You remember when Trump said at some point, unconditional surrender? That's what he wanted. That's what I still want. And now he negotiates and sends. I mean, there's a sense in which his 15-point plan is unconditional surrender. But it is interesting how now he's negotiating. Surrender is not negotiated. Surrender is just surrender. You sign surrender documents. Japanese didn't negotiate. The Germans didn't negotiate. They just surrendered. All right, final point, just to give you the horror, the sense of horror of this Iranian regime. It appears that the Iranian regime has now lowered the minimum age for participation in war-related roles in defense of Iran to 12 years old. In other words, they will be recruiting children into military activity as young as 12. Now, this is not new for the Iranians. During the Iran-Iraq war, in which 1 million Iranians lost their lives, were killed, many of those 1 million, were young kids. Iran would send these children into battle against the Iraqis, with whatever weapons they had, often into minefields to clear the minefields, basically by killing themselves. The kids were convinced that they were martyrs in the name of Allah, and they were all going to heaven as a consequence of this. I don't think the concept of virgin meant anything to them, but heaven, they understood. So Iran has a history of being quite willing to sacrifice its children for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the state, for the sake of whatever. Oh God, this is I just saw this tweet. It's long, but I'll just give you the beginnings of it just to show you how ridiculous this is. Trump thinks he can solve a clash of ancient civilizations that started more than 2,500 years ago. The Israelis are Mesopotamians. The Iranians are Indo-Europeans. Abraham is explicitly from Ur, which is in Mesopotamia, near Basra, Iraqi. There is no meaningful genetic discontinuity between the people of ancient Mesopotamia and the people who became Canaanites, who became Israelites. God, who cares? What is the relevance of 2,500 years ago to today? Nothing, nada, zero, none. None. And this conflict has nothing to do with that. By the way, just as a fun fact, the military leader of Uganda, who is also the son of the president of Uganda, posted on Twitter earlier, I think this was yesterday, if Israel needs help, the Ugandan brothers are ready to assist. We stand with Israel because we are Christians. The Bible said, blessed are you, Israel. So the Ugandans are ready to march. Just in case Israel needs, this is the land of Idi Amin, Entebbe in 1976, for those of you who know your history. Pretty funny. Pretty funny. That the Ugandans, I mean, at least somebody likes Israel. Certainly not America. Many people in America are not in there. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's move on. Let me just see. All right. Give me 1 second. Sorry, that was more like 10 seconds, but anyway. All right. I think as we speak, or at least earlier today, put it this way, earlier today, there were demonstrations. Actually, this is last night. Sorry, last night. There were demonstrations outside City Hall in Philadelphia with masked individuals. Some of them might be Muslims. Some of them might not be. Outside the City Hall in Philadelphia, burning American flags and waving, Palestinian flags, Hamas flags, Iranian flags. They were also, speaking. So, I don't know. I don't know how many people there are, 35, 40 people maybe in this demonstration, and media and people opposed to them, but not a lot of people. But anyway, they were chanting, or the guy, of course, they're all masked, right? They're all masked. They're not going to show their faces. I'm sure many of them are Muslim, but no, some of them, I just saw some pictures. Some of them clearly just Americans, just your kids, right? Kids and grandkids, right? Standing there, just Americans. Anyway, these people they're yelling into the microphone, for every U.S. soldier who comes back in a casket, we cheer. They could be even libertarians, for all I know, anarcho-capitalists who hate America. But for every U.S. soldier who comes back in a casket, we cheer. These are real scumbags. You can be against a war without wanting American troops to die. They're advocating for, they are cheering, they are chanting for the death of American soldiers. There was some of this during the Vietnam War. And it was horrible and disgusting then. And it's even more horrible and disgusting now. Because think about who they're supporting. They're supporting Islamist regimes, right? In New York, I guess also last night, maybe this is this morning, also demonstration, Palestinian flags, free Palestine, stuff like that, and then people yelling, we support Hamas, it is right to rebel, USA go to hell. USA go to hell. Yeah, I think there's something about, if you're actively calling for the destruction of America, and you are on a visa here, I think that should be gone. I don't think the First Amendment would cover you as as not a U.S. citizen, and calling for the destruction of America, and a support for organization dedicated to the destruction of America. I have to ask one of our free speech lawyers what he thinks, but yeah, if these are people who are, where's ICE? Where's ICE when you actually need them? Oh, they're at the airports helping the TSA and arresting people who happen to be in line whose IDs they don't like. Shazbot says you can't be a capitalist and an anarchist at the same time. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Capitalism requires government. I said it. Oh, people are going to hate me again. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? Yeah, Democrats and Republicans are trying to make a deal over DHS funding so they can hire TSA, not hire, but bring back TSA employees and pay them salaries. Because right now, according to the media, now you have to figure out if you believe the media or not. But according to media and according to pictures I'm seeing, travelers are facing the longest TSA wait times in history. Now, TSA wait times are long and bad anyway. TSA is inefficient anyway. And now they're the longest in history. And why? Because people are not coming to work because they're not getting paid. I can't blame them. They're not getting paid. Why is anybody at work? They will get paid back pay, but yeah, right now they're not getting paid. Maybe they should go drive Uber. At least that way they'll have some money. Asaf says he's an anarchist and a capitalist. No, you're not, Asaf. I hate to break it to you. I know this is going to be hard for you, But no, you're not. You're an anarchist. You're not a capitalist. You have no understanding what capitalism is, and you don't. And I've seen you here post stuff. You're not a capitalist. Anarchist, yeah, I'll give you that. To be a capitalist, you have to acknowledge the idea of individual rights, and you have to acknowledge that there has to be an entity protecting those individual rights. And anarchists reject that. So you are an anarchist. That's okay. You can be an anarchist. Don't take it too hard. I mean, it's almost like being a communist or a fascist or something like that. It's really, really bad, but, it's okay. We'll accept you. You can, a lot of people love me, even people who disagree with me, it turns out. Yeah. He says, I'm an anarchist and I love Yaron. Go figure. Anyway, TSA lines, longest in history. If you're traveling out there, just you listen to Yaron for news, get to the airport really, really, really early. If you're not a member of CLEAR, I probably shouldn't say this because this actually goes against my interest. But because I don't want more members of CLEAR, because the more members that are CLEAR, the longer the CLEAR lines will be in. I'm a CLEAR member. But you should get TSA pre, and get CLEAR. It's the only way you're going to survive travel right now. And indeed, from what I'm reading, a lot of people are signing up for CLEAR. CLEAR, you get a separate line, and they take you to the front of the TSA line. So you skip whatever line exists. And if you have TSA pre and CLEAR, you get to the front of the TSA pre line. Now, in some airports, the CLEAR lines are very long. Other airports, the CLEAR lines are very short. And some airports, God forbid, don't have a CLEAR line. Stay away from those places. Anyway, if you're traveling, beware. Like SFO is better. SFO, the lines are not bad. I don't see why. This is everywhere. All right. So ICE agents deployed to the airports. But here's the headline, and I think this is true. ICE agents deployed to New York City airports do not appear to help ease TSA lines. Yeah, I mean, they have no qualifications. What are they going to do? I mean, they're not trained to look at those x-rays. They're not trained to screen you. They can look at your ID, but even that, it's just, there's nothing the TSA can do. Right? So ICE is there, and as somebody said, who's at the airport said, haven't seen ICE officers do much beyond look at their phones. Well, it's better than looking at my phone. I don't want them looking at my phone. I don't want them looking at my ID. I don't want them harassing people. Ian says SFO has private TSA contracts. Wow. So San Francisco, crazy, insane. Left to San Francisco has private TSA contracts. I like that. Everybody should have private TSA contracts, and TSA should be privatized generally. There should be competition. Anyway, the New York immigration, whatever, I don't believe that their deployment to the airports is anything more than them trying to show that they're trying to help and then potentially trying to do more enforcement. There's nothing really to report that there's nothing happening. There's just nothing happening. But yeah, ICE is at the airports. So if you're an illegal immigrant, don't go to the airport. Might want to be careful. In the meantime, in Congress, they are trying unsuccessfully to solve the problem. Now, Congress has approved a new head of the DHS. Former Senator Mullen will be the head of the DHS, replacing Noam. Remember Noam? She didn't do too well, and she was the first one Trump fired, and she's been demoted significantly. Anyway, Mullen is coming in during this kind of shutdown salary's not being paid. He's responsible for TSA. He's responsible for ICE. He's going to have to figure this out. He's, I guess, at Capitol Hill right now, talking to senators, trying to bring Republicans and Democrats together. Democrats feel like they've got an issue where they can really leverage and have a little bit of power over Republicans, so they're using it. They're demanding reforms to ICE. Some Republicans are willing to compromise, others are not. Some Democrats are willing to compromise, others are not. They'll probably come to a deal where the extremes don't vote for it, but they have enough senators kind of in the middle who do. Whether the House will vote for it, I don't know if the House needs to vote for it. I guess it does. I don't know. But yeah, there is. This is a big deal now, trying to figure out how to open this up. It's also going to be interesting to see how Mullen approaches the whole ICE issue. Obviously, Noam, went crazy, and basically Miller was running her department for her. And we'll see if Mullen. He's a hardline on immigration, so my expectation is nothing much will change, except for the optics. He might have learned from Noam not to be quite as nutty and not maybe if an ICE person shoots a citizen, not to say the citizen was a terrorist before you investigate. Maybe you say, we're looking into it, we're examining the situation, we'll have more information for you later, which is standard police work, standard way in which police respond. But anyway, we will wait to see how Mullen is as head of Department of Homeland Security. Oh, I closed the window I didn't want to close. Let's open it up again. All right. That's DS. Oh, yeah. Talk about agencies in the government that are going through, I don't know, problems. The RFK and Health and Human Services, HHS. Right now, there's no director of the CDC. There's no, as of today, there won't even be an acting director of the CDC. They can't decide on who it should be. The previous director of the CDC left. A number of people have left. Both people who are associated with Make America Healthy Again have left, and people opposed to Make America Healthy Again have left. So you've got a lot of turmoil. The person who is, until today, acting director of the CDC, Jay Bhattacharya, who is the head of the NIH, who is, relatively sane relative to RFK and some of the people he's brought on, is trying to get some order in it. For example, he said an outrageous thing, Jay Bhattacharya said, really something outrageous. He said, kids should get a measles vaccine. Maha went nuts. Oh no, measles vaccine kill. They give you, I don't know, autism. They destroy humanity. They are the death of all of us. So there's a real battle going on. The Trump administration, on the one hand, wants to support RFK because they got good votes from his people, from the Maha crowd. But they also have got other interests. For example, they passed this law that basically gave liability shielding from the maker of the weed killer glyphosate. They gave them shielding from legal liability, which I don't think the government should do, but anyway, they did. And Maha is freaking out. I mean, RFK is freaking out because he's a huge opponent of glyphosate. Maha is a huge opponent of glyphosate. Anyway, there are big interest groups, the farmers, for example, farming interest groups, big interest groups, uninterested in RFK's agenda or interested in opposing it at every turn, and who have a lot of in with Trump. Also, if you remember, Trump has been trying to get Casey Means to become a Surgeon General, to be appointed Surgeon General. Casey Means, who I think believes in, she believes in demons. I think she believes in the demons who scratched Tucker Carlson. And she's a wacko, a complete nutcase, right? All over the place with all kinds of weird, strange ideas. Anyway, as a consequence, she probably doesn't have the votes in the Senate to be approved. So they're not taking it to a vote. Vinay Prasad, the FDA's vaccine chief, is leaving at the end of April for the second time. He left before, came back, leaving again. This CDC vaccine advisory panel, which RFK completely revamped with all his people. Robert Malone, the anti-vaxxer, anti-COVID anti-vaxxer, who was a Kennedy ally and very popular among the MAHA nuts, resigned yesterday. That is a big move again, negative for RFK. Anyway, all of this, the CDC, the FDA, all of it is in flux. And RFK is keeping a low profile. You probably haven't seen much of him lately. And it's not going well. It's not going well. RFK is focusing on his pyramid, with the steaks and the butter all on top. He's focusing on that in staying away from kind of the controversial issues around vaccines and other stuff. And MAHA is kind of freaking out, and there's nobody running the CDC at this point. And, RFK would like certain people to be running it, but it looks like the Trump administration is saying we probably don't have the votes in Congress for those people. Now, to really dig deep into this, to really understand what's going on at the CDC, at the FDA, generally at the Health and Human Services, and RFK's insanity, we will have Amish Adalja on Monday. I think it's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern time on Monday to talk about it. So don't miss that interview. Amish is fantastic. We're going to delve deep into the conditions at the Health and Human Services and how they are undermining medical care in the United States. By the way, we're kind of 10 minutes out of our first hour, and we're $32 short of our first hour goal. So please consider supporting us with anything. I mean, Asaf, the anarchist who thinks he's a capitalist, just did a sticker for $1, and that's great. That's great. I appreciate that. I appreciate that he supports the show in spite of disagreeing with me. Gail, Mary Aline, and Stephen Harper all have done stickers. Thank you, guys. That really, really helps. You too can do a sticker and help us get, it's the $ at the bottom of the chat there. You can press on that. You can either ask a question with some dollars or just do a sticker. You can do a sticker from $1 to $500. I appreciate all of them. There is Colleen who knows something about the healthcare system. Colleen, emergency room doctor, $20. Thank you, Colleen. Really appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Yes. EU. The EU passed some interesting stuff today. They were busy. They've been busy. Okay, so the first thing they passed, Silvanos, thank you. Really appreciate that. All right. I think we've just made our first hour target. So keep on coming because we need to make that second hour target. We're definitely going to go into the second hour. The European Parliament has been busy. It voted overwhelmingly to implement the EU-US trade deal following months of uncertainty about, the tariff threats and Trump saying yes and no, and maybe I shouldn't do a deal. And you have to buy, you want LNG, you better approve this deal and everything else. They've added a series of safeguards to the deal. Remember, the legislation would set tariffs at 15% into the United States, so it would tax us Americans, poor Americans. We're going to be taxed 15% on anything we buy from Europe. That's most U.S. EU goods. Now, that's down from 30%, which is what Trump initially threatened, and it's up significantly for what it was before Trump started all this nonsense. In exchange, Europeans are going to invest in the U.S. Not clear what that even means. And they will remove all EU import duties on US industrial goods. So Europe is going to massively benefit because they're going to get cheap American stuff. They're going to pay basically zero tariffs on US industrial goods. Now, if they were smart, they won't do this. If they were smart, they would just unilaterally go to zero tariffs with everybody. But it is true that if they did that, many of their farmers would go out of business. Is that a bad thing? I'm not convinced. They would be importing food from the US, they'd be importing food from Africa. That might be a good thing, not a bad thing. And certainly deploy resources in Europe for more productive activities. Anyway, they passed this 417 to 154, 71 abstentions. Trump must be very happy. They will get their LNG now as well. They have some outs, like they withdraw from it if Trump increases tariffs above 15%, or if he introduces new duties on any EU goods. The deal would be halted. They also have a sunrise clause. That means EU tariff reductions will only take effect if the U.S. upholds its side of the bargain, including lower tariffs on 15% on EU products that contain less than 50% steel and aluminum, which is what I guess the deal is about. Anyway, that was bill number one. Not very controversial, but it's done. And I think, again, the Trump administration must be very happy about that. The second one, much more controversial within Europe, passed by a smaller margin, but still a big margin. And that is the toughest in EU history, migration bill that involves detention and deportation. By a vote of 389 to 206, the EU is reading the tea leaves of what voters are demanding. They are authorizing immediate negotiations on new return regulations. It will create return hubs outside the EU where people can be detained for up to 25 months or even more than that. Return orders that work across the whole union, and deportations to safe countries, even if the person never lived there. It's the hardest crackdown on irregular migration Europe has ever passed, of illegal migration EU has ever passed. It's not law yet. There's still going to be negotiations with the council, I guess. But it does seem like even the EU is paying attention to what its voters are demanding. And the voters are demanding to kick out the illegal immigrants, to deport them all. Still, no principle, no guidance on what kind of immigration is okay, no real immigration policy, but deporting illegals is very, very popular, and it's gonna happen. Again, the whole world shall adopt the Yaron Brook plan for legal immigration. That is, anybody who can find a job, welcome. All right. Dems are up to their crazy stuff again. Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are pushing a bill, it's now in committee, to pause the construction and expansion of AI centers all over the United States. Just stop it. To quote Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, our bills learn from our lack of regulation following the similar rise regarding the internet and demands a new approach to AI, one that protects American people from big tech's egregious overreach, one that centers prosperity for the many over the exorbitant profits for the few. Bernie Sanders says, so I think in a sane world, what happens is the leadership of the United States sits down with the leadership of China and the leadership around the world to work together so that we don't go over the edge and create a technology which could perhaps destroy humanity. Okay, so this is the Panic over AI bills that are basically where they want to limit the construction of AI data centers. Of course, the only real opposition they're getting is, but what about the Chinese? Nothing about rights, nothing about it's none of your business, nothing about technology. It's about, but what about the Chinese? The Chinese will gain an advantage. They're better, they're bigger. That was Fetterman. Fetterman is very against this and pushed back on this. And he said it's a policy proposal as China first. But is that really the issue? Isn't it the issue of freedom? Anyway, they're demanding stopping it all until there is proper regulation of big tech, proper regulation of AI. The bills are, I guess, in the Judiciary Committee. So we will see where it happens. Now, there's an alternative bill pushed by Republicans, which is called Protect American AI Act, which is a proposal aimed at easing legal restrictions for AI data centers. So this is a bill encouraging the building of data centers. Protect America AI Act data centers permits would remain in place even when environmental review for the projects are challenged by litigation. We'll see if that passes. Remember, a lot of people, Skynet's going to kill us all. A lot of people on the right hate AI. Like Bannon is very anti-AI. I wouldn't be surprised if Tucker Carlson's very anti-AI. I think MAGA generally is not pro-AI. So while some in Congress, some Republicans in Congress might be, it does not go well with MAGA supporters. And indeed, on this, Sanders and AOC might be more in line with MAGA supporters than Trump. So we will see a new Trump statement dropped. I haven't seen a new Trump statement. Let's take a look if we can find a new Trump statement. I don't look at Truth Social, so I don't know. Somebody would have had to copy paste it onto here. I don't see it. Trump. That's not new. That's not new. Okay. Maybe this is it. No, that's 8 hours ago. That's 8 hours ago. I don't see any new statement from Trump. Maybe you can help me out. Tell me what it's about. Something about stopping operations. That's 8 hours ago. Does look like something has happened in terms of pausing strikes on Iranian power plants for another 10 days. The bond market is flashing red. 10-year note is up to 4.42%. Yeah, that's high. That's very high. Mortgage rates are up 7-month highs. And as a consequence, Trump is negotiating again. That is, he's pausing strikes on Iranian power plants for another 10 days. I mean, it's clear he doesn't want to strike the power plants, and he's looking for excuses, right? He's looking for excuses. All right, another funny Democratic story. California. So California has governor elections this year. Newsom is out, and he's going to run for president, and they're going to elect a governor. And California has open primaries, so the primary's coming up, and in the primary, anybody can run, right? Anybody can run, and so you have Democrats and Republicans all running in the same primary, and then the top two vote getters get to run in the election against one another. And you would expect, everybody would expect, that, I mean, it's California, right? So everybody would expect that the top two candidates will be Democrats, and Californians will have a choice between two Democrats to choose governor. Who the governor will be, two Democrats. But latest polls are not showing that. The latest polls are showing the two Republicans, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, are leading the field. I mean, not with a lot of votes, but they're leading the field. 16% for Hilton, 14% for Bianco. Then you've got three Democrats. Porter, I hate Porter. If she's governor of California, that would guarantee I never go back to California. She is, ugh. Anyway, Porter, Steyer, and Stowell, right? Those three all have 10% each. See how it breaks down, right? And then there's a bunch of other, right? People running like Javier Becerra and Antonio Villaraigosa and Tony Thurmond and some others. They've all got single digits. Although I'm surprised, you would think that Villaraigosa, who was the mayor of New York, would be more popular, or even Becerra, who was Attorney General, is pretty well known in California. I'm surprised they don't have more votes. But so you've got a big Democratic field, all the votes are splintered, and the top two are Republicans. That would be beautiful. Wouldn't it be beautiful if two Republicans together don't come anywhere close to 50%, but because they're the biggest vote getters, the consequence of that is that we have a race between two Republicans, and a Republican becomes the governor of California? That would be pretty wild and a lot of fun. I mean, basically, gridlock. Sacramento has a supermajority Democrats. It would be complete gridlock. It would be amazing. So much fun. I would love to see that. Although in the poll, 24% undecided, so this could go anyway. I mean, anyway. I mean, I just hope, of all of this, my only hope is that Porter is not on the ballot. I hated her. She was that congresswoman who always brought out the little whiteboard and harassed CEOs or harassed her betters. Okay. So that is going on in California. We'll watch that election closely and see what happens. All right, I thought I'd comment a little bit more about Piker. Is that his name? Piker? Visit to Cuba. I read an article about this and a number of different things about this that are interesting. So there's an Hasan Piker, who's a woke progressive streamer. I mean, we're talking about a streamer with millions. He has millions of followers, as you can tell. I'm a little jealous. Millions of followers. And, he's a socialist. He's worse than just an avid socialist. I mean, he's a real nihilistic, far left, burn it all down, horrific human being. Evil is what I'd say. Anyway, he went to Cuba on a humanitarian mission with a bunch of other progressives. They all went over there. Him and Ilha Omar's daughter and a bunch of others were all there. There's an article in the Daily Mail about this, and here's what it says: woke progressive streamer Hasan Piker wears $1,300 Cartier glasses, $690 shirt, while staying in 5-star hotel during humanitarian trip to Cuba, where average annual salary is $200. Now, all of that is right, and the article goes into a lot of description about the shirt and the glasses, what he's wearing, and all these other people and where they stayed, and how these are hypocrites. These are rich socialists, and how Asaf just said, I'm nihilist. Well, if you're nihilistic, then you're certainly not a capitalist. Those two are in direct contradiction to one another. So you can be a nihilistic anarchist, and that is 100% compatible. I think anarchism is nihilism, but it's 100% incompatible with capitalism. So sorry, but you're going to have to rethink what you are. Anyway, Hasan Piker and all these other people, they go there, and what is the criticism, right? The criticism is that they're hypocrites. They're rich, they stay in nice hotels, they wear nice clothes, They wear expensive glasses while they're going and I don't know, doling out food to the poor in Cuba. They also met with the president of Cuba in his palace and other delegates, and they traveled in air-conditioned buses, which, of course, the masses in Cuba don't have access to, and all of this, and of course, they're demonstrating the fact that the United States is not allowing oil to come into the island, and it's the United States' fault that, Cuba is so poor. Now, here's the thing. I mean, almost everybody's a hypocrite. Hypocrisy is not a serious argument about anything. Like, yeah, hypocrisy is bad, but yeah. What should Hasan Piker be criticized for? He should be criticized for being an advocate of a murderous, totalitarian regime that enslaves its own people, that imprisons them for what they think and what they say and what they write, that has held their people in poverty for decades now, denied their rights at every turn, associate themselves with the worst, most murderous regimes on the planet. I mean, that's what Hasan Piker should be criticized for being a socialist and for supporting socialism and for supporting socialist communist regimes out there, for supporting thugs, murderous thugs, people who destroy their own countries, who use force against their own people, who kill and imprison their own people. That's what these demonstrators should be criticized for, not for how expensive their glasses are. Who the F cares? I don't care what shirt he wore. If he'd gone in rags, if he'd taken on one of those sacks from the Middle Ages that itches and scratches, I mean, I would have enjoyed it a little bit, but it wouldn't have made any difference. The guy is a monster, not because he's rich and he flaunts it. He's a monster because he advocates for an ideology that is a monstrous ideology, and he knows it. He advocates for an ideology, communism, that has killed tens of millions of people everywhere it's been tried. He's supporting a regime that is massively oppressing its people. That's why he's a monster. And the fact that he's an hypocrite, yeah, of course he's an hypocrite. Most of the socialists I know are hypocrites. I mean, there are very, 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 very few socialists in the West who act like socialists, live like socialists. They almost all live like capitalists, rich capitalists, armchair communists. Disgusting human beings. Again, not because they're armchair, not because they're hypocrites, but because of their ideology that they hold. And I remember when Hasan Piker was really, really criticized, people were super upset because Hasan Piker was shocking his dog, using a collar to shock his dog. And yeah, that's pretty nasty, but that's nothing. Hasan Piker supports Hamas, which raped and murdered and pillaged and slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, burnt babies, killed children in front of their parents, killed parents in front of their children. That, no big deal. But he shocked his dog. Now that is beyond the pale. He's a hypocrite. He wore an expensive shirt. That is beyond the pale. Give me a frigging break. The guy is a monster because of the ideas he preaches. He's a monster because of the support he provides to monstrous people, monstrous ideologies, monstrous actions. He has blood on his hands because he supports the people who are slitting throats, because he supports the regime that is imprisoning their people, because he supports the regime that shot young women on the streets in Iran because they showed a little bit of hair. That's why he's an evil dude. He's a hypocrite. Who cares? So when we go after the bad guys, go after them for what's important. Go after them for about what matters. Go after them about the things that they're really evil on. All right. That's my rant on Hasan Piker. I have a feeling Christian is going to make that into a separate video. All right. Let's see. Okay, here's here's Trump's statement. This is a statement somebody said that just dropped. Okay. As per Iranian government request, he's taking requests. Please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention on this matter. See, he's not going to attack the power plants. I mean, he regretted it within minutes of saying it last Friday. And now it's just a matter of backtracking and getting out of it. He'll deploy ground troops before he attacks the power plants. But he can't say, whoops, I made a mistake, sorry, I never meant to do it. Whoops. All right. Let's see. All right. That is the news for this March 26, 2026, almost April. All right. We did well for the first hour. We're well into the second hour. We still got 45 minutes for the second hour. We started at the past. So, please consider doing a sticker. Roland, thank you for that sticker. I see it. Thank you for the sticker. Natural Nature Observer, thank you for the sticker. I think I got it. Colleen and Sylvanas I got earlier. So thank you, guys. What else did I want to say? Yes. So ask questions. I will answer all of them. So use the Super Chat to ask questions. And use the stickers in the Super Chat to support the show, value for value. I put this out for free. You listen. You're gaining a value. Show some love. All right. Defenders of Capitalism. Defenders of Capitalism is a website of a program that is dedicated to defending capitalism philosophically, morally, of course, but also politically, economically. It's run by Michael Williams. The program is offered by the Leadership Program of the Rockies, or has been offered at the Leadership Program of the Rockies, but the program can be offered anywhere. You should check it out. Check out the website. I'm involved. I teach some of the classes. I will be teaching a class on foreign policy at Leadership of the Program of the Rockies in May in Denver. So that'll be a lot of fun. I haven't talked there about foreign policy in a while, and there is a lot to talk about. A lot. I hope they give me a 3-hour segment. Michael, if you hear this, I want 3 hours. I need 3 hours. I have to cover Ukraine and Iran and Israel and China and Russia. I mean, God. And the principles behind it all. Anyway, that'll be fun. So check him out. Defenders of Capitalism, defendersofcapitalism.com. The Ayn Rand Institute has a conference in Porto, Portugal, April 18th, 19th. Check it out. I'll be there. And doing a number of different things. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun and a lot of time to socialize and good sessions, lots of Q&As. Yeah, and you'll just be in the company of 100 other objectivists, so students of objectivism, people studying objectivism. Check it out. You can find more information about it at einrand.org/start here, and you can get a code for a discount. The code is 26 YBS. Yaron Brook Show YBS 10. That's because 10% discount. 26. That's the year. So 10% discount. All right, check it out. What else? Alex Epstein is the #1 authority on all things energy, oil, natural gas, LNG, and of course the environmentalists threatening it. So check out the environmentalists. Check out Alex. AlexEpstein.substack.com. AlexEpstein.substack.com. All right, where are we? Super chat time. Don't forget to ask your questions. This is your opportunity. All right, we'll start with $50 questions. Not your average algorithm, $50. Thank you. Two $50 questions, or it's one question with two parts. Thank you, $100. Really, really, really appreciate it. Come on, guys, you should step up. Not your average algorithm is doing $100 here. Since there's a huge upper middle class in the United States, does that level of autonomy and prosperity cultivate a certain level of selfishness and assertiveness that doesn't need to be derived from an intellectual source like a think tank? People take pride in their assets and their freedom to use them. They don't want government pushing them around or taking their stuff away. Does the presence of abundance in private property inculcate selfishness subconsciously, implicitly? No. No. I mean, to some extent, people like they spend their money and they spend them on selfish activities and selfish values. But, the upper middle class and the middle class tend to vote Democratic. They tend to vote for higher taxes, not just Democratic in terms of presidential elections. They tend to vote Democratic in state elections, and you can see how the states are raising taxes on the upper middle class, certainly. So certainly politically, they don't, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that in spite of the fact that they go out there and spend their money in a kind of selfish way, and the fact is they go out there and make money arguably in a selfish way, they feel guilty for it. They don't challenge the actual morality involved. They don't challenge the altruism at the core of it. And the consequence of that, the consequence of the fact that they're not challenging any of that, is that they feel guilty for being selfish in this one realm of life. And in order to appease the guilt, they get involved in leftist causes or in right-wing causes, but they're very involved in redistribution of wealth, and they have no problems with high taxes. And, they're likely to live in New York and in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. And a lot of the population in those places are upper middle class. And they vote to perpetuate the leftist agenda that's in those places. So, no, selfishness does not seep in. Selfishness is not natural. And selfishness is certainly not a feature of wealth. And an appreciation for private property does not come from having it. It comes from understanding where it comes from. It comes from accepting the idea of individual rights, which comes from the accepting of an idea that your life is your central value. Your life is the standard by which all other values are measured. Your life is what matters. That they don't have, because that they can only get from the intellectuals. People don't hold ideas because of money or because of material things. They hold ideas that they absorb from the culture, or they might think of them themselves, or they might read in a book, but ultimately it comes from the people who generate ideas. The people who generate or communicate ideas are the intellectuals. And therefore it's the intellectuals who shape the culture. And if the intellectuals are collectivists and altruists, the culture is going to be that, even among the rich, even among the middle class and the upper middle class. Now, they might not go all in. They might not they might not be willing to be socialists. right? Completely. But at the same time, they're not exactly capitalists, and they're certainly not egoists, if you understand the full meaning of that word. So no, I talked about a sense of life that is a kind of self-interested sense of life, if you will, a selfish sense of life that manifests itself in a certain level of selfishness. But that is only at a very thin layer, and it's only about certain issues in certain regards. And maybe it prevents the extreme. It's one of the reasons maybe America will never be socialist all out. But it's pretty bad today, and these people are not fighting against that. They're not advocating against that. They're not voting against that. And to some extent, they're willing to have government push them around. How many of them were pro-lockdowns? Quite a few, even though they had the money to isolate themselves, to go anywhere they wanted. Thank you, Not Your Average Algorithm. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for the $100. Really appreciate that. All right. Anybody know where Andrew is? I know he said he was going to cut back on super chats, but he's kind of disappeared. I'm worried about Andrew. You remember Andrew asked questions about a lot about these questions about altruism and how it works. Haven't seen him around in weeks now. Worried. Maybe he's on vacation. Maybe he's taking a break from the Yaron Brook Show. Do teachers care more about their pensions and job security than justice when it comes to grading students? I've heard many teachers saying they pass failing students just to avoid repercussions from administration. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think a lot of teachers, sadly, because of the system and the way it's run, they care more about their peers, they care more about the administrators, they care more about hassles. Teaching is hard, it's not easy. And they care more about that than about their students. It's not just about justice, it's about students. It's about the quality of their teaching. Do they care that much about the quality of the teaching? And if teachers cared, for example, about teaching people how to read, they literally cared about teaching reading, they'd all be using phonics. But they don't. They want to be cool. They want to do the latest, greatest thing. And if the latest, greatest thing doesn't result in the kids learning how to read, it must be the kids' fault. So no, a lot of different pressures on teachers. It doesn't seem like, and now, again, not all teachers. There are excellent teachers out there. There are teachers who care a great amount. There are all kinds of teachers. But a lot of the teachers, unfortunately, in the unionized government school arena, are just they're not there for the students, unfortunately. Or maybe they started out idealistically being for the students, and then it wore them down. The bureaucracy, the administration, the irrationality wore them down. Arthur, two-part question. Part one, I saw a video of a terrorist attack in Israel where there was an active shooter in a roadway, and the taxi driver took his time to help an elderly woman out of the back of his car to escape the gunfire. Was this an altruistic act? Should he have just ran and left the woman behind? Well, not necessarily, right? I mean, I don't know exactly how risky it was. I don't know exactly what the level of risk was. But look, I mean, the two aspects here. One is a general benevolence towards people, and helping people out in the face of evil, and not letting evil win by giving them easy targets to shoot at. And then there's a second aspect of it, which is it's his taxi. She, in a sense, when you get into somebody else's car, in a taxi or Uber, you're in some respects under their care. I think he probably had a genuine sense of pride in his own profession, taking care of his passengers, not just abandoning a passenger in the face of something gone wrong. I think it comes from a place of pride rather than a place of altruism and sacrifice. Now, it could be altruistic. I mean, Israelis are well known as sometimes being altruistic. But it doesn't necessarily, I can think of it as being a heroic act of pride and of caring and of professional pride. Like, it wasn't that he ran in from the sidewalk and opened the door and guided her out in the face of fire. It was his taxi. He had stopped. He was getting out. I mean, it makes sense that he would help the passenger that he had taken on the ride. Again, I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, but I don't think it has to be altruistic. Thank you, Arthur. Hopper Campbell, since objectivism is not on most people's menu, is narcissism their only psychological defense against altruism? I think it's certainly one of the psychological defenses. I mean, others are nihilism, and I wouldn't call it a defense because it's worse than altruism, right? I'm not sure what's worse, right? And a lot of people manage to live their lives with altruism compartmentalized. So it's not the case that you have to become a narcissist in order to put aside objectivism. If you don't want to be an altruist, you just have to say, okay, I don't know what the right morality is. I know altruism is wrong. I don't want to sacrifice myself. I also don't want to be a narcissist. That kind of sucks, and I don't want to exploit other people, and I don't hate the world, so I'll just wing it. That's much more understandable. Narcissism is a real self-destructive ideology. So while it's an escape from altruism, it's jumping from the fire into the fire pan. So it's not going to save you. It's going to make you miserable, and it's going to destroy you. And the same with nihilism. The same with all the seeming alternatives to altruism. Max says, thanks for keeping me informed, Yaron. Please keep doing Tucker Carlson rage bait segments. All right. I've been given permission to do Tucker Carlson segments. Yeah, you will get many Tucker Carlson segments. Happy to do it. Thank you, Max. I really appreciate it. Arthur again. Thank you, Arthur. You have a very non-judgmental view when it comes to suicide. You believe it's completely the individual's choice and shouldn't be held against him for deciding to exit. But is suicide even more ever immoral in your view? I mean, look, if it involves evasion, if it involves irrationality, if you're giving up on life for no good reason, that is, you want to live, but you're too lazy to live, or you're evading, then yeah, suicide is not a good thing, right? So I don't think, but the two options here. One is if life is really unbearable, then suicide is fine. And the second alternative is you've literally chosen not to live. You made that fundamental choice deep down, not because of evasion, not because of anything else. You just chose not to live. Then it's pre-moral. It's pre-moral. Morality only applies after you make the choice to live. Now, let's say you make the choice to live, and then you evade, you behave irrationally and everything like that, and you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to commit suicide because of that. That I would say immoral, but the whole way of your life is immoral, so the suicide is just an add-on. But if your life is horrible and you really can't see a way out of it rationally, then suicide is legit. And if you literally choose not to live, then it's pre-moral, it's pre-judgment. There's nothing to judge. You can only judge people once they choose to live. Morality is about the actions you take in pursuit of life, or not. But if you literally choose none, then yeah. All right. Stephen was curious about the Broadway play with John Lithgow playing Ronald Dahl. but it's all about some anti-Semitic remarks he made. No thanks. All that creative literary contributions, and that's what the playwright focused on, thoughts. Yeah, I mean, that's really sad, right? There's so much interesting about Ronald Dahl's life, about the whole Dr. Seuss phenomena, about the books, about the sense of life that they project, about the values that they're there. To focus on that, and I don't know the full context of it, yeah, I agree with you. It's completely shallow and wrong, but it's typical of trying to knock down heroes, even with, whatever it takes. They'll knock them down. All right. Stephen, thanks for the show. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. Clark, is there a greater than 10% chance we have a fascist Nazi-type takeover of the United States or Europe in the next few decades? Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by fascist Nazi style. No, I don't think we're literally going to get a fascist Nazi style. We might get a fascist, a nationalist Christian, I think is much more likely. I think the 10% chance for a literal Nazi is much lower than that. For somebody who's carrying the cross and the flag, a flag and a cross, I think the probability is I think the probability is higher than 10%. Not all right-wing authoritarians are Nazis. There are all kinds of variations. Colleen says, I'm curious about your thoughts on the SAVE Act, the Voter ID Act that requires passports and birth certificates with matching names to vote. Yeah, it requires that in order to register to vote. And then it requires some ID in order to actual vote. I'm fine with the second part, right? I'm fine with having an ID requirement in order to actually vote. I think that's easy. And again, I would take driver's licenses are okay for that. I think the register to vote with a passport, birth certificate, I think is probably a hurdle for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have passports, and women have a problem with birth certificates because their birth certificates are on their maiden name, and they would have to change it in order for it to work as an ID. So I'm not crazy about that. But my general view is that voting is overrated. So I'm not, and that voting that's, people get too overly excited about voting because it doesn't really matter that much. It will exclude a lot of people, and the funny thing is it'll exclude a lot of Republicans. Because a lot of Republicans are the ones who don't have passports and don't have birth certificates. So I'm not in favor of it. I'm in favor of having an ID to vote. I think when you come into the ballot and they're matching you up with the voter rolls, they should be able to quickly verify that it's you. Now, it should be quick and easy. So, you could probably have a fake ID and they would know. That's fine. You don't need those machines that TSA has. TSA shouldn't have the machines that TSA has. That's too much of a violation of my rights. But so yeah, I'm not in favor of it. But because I'm not, what do you call it? Voting to me is not the most important thing in the world. I can think of a lot of worse things that Congress could be doing. I don't think it'll help Republicans. I don't think it helps anybody. I think it actually creates more divisiveness, more people thinking that everything's being rigged, and so I think it doesn't even help in terms of assuring people that the vote is more kosher. I think as long as Republicans lose, they will always believe that they're being cheated out of the vote, out of it. So it doesn't really solve anything. So it's mostly a waste of time. Thank you, Colleen. All right, replace the spark. The U.S. and Israel surrender after discovering Iran has massive stockpiles of 12-year-olds. That's pretty funny. Yes, I think they should. Because, you know, American troops and Israeli troops are not allowed to shoot at 12-year-olds. If they do, they'll be accused of genocide. Israel learned that firsthand in Gaza. Harrison says, I used to be an anarchist until I spent 2 years homeless in the Twin Cities. Having to actually live in a state of lawlessness is hell. Yeah, I believe that. And in the Twin Cities, it's cold. That could not be pleasant. So I'm glad you're not homeless anymore, and glad that shook the anarchy out of you. James, why did the U.S. lift Russian sanctions? We have some evidence that Russia gave Iran military info that got our troops killed in action. A Russian plane is in D.C. right now. What do you think the meeting is for? Yeah, I don't know about the Russian plane in D.C. I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that. But look, Trump likes Putin. Trump admires Putin. Trump is not inclined to do anything that goes against Putin. That's just the reality. And the sanctions have to do with the fact that he believes that if he eliminates the sanctions on Russian oil prices would come down. But yes, Russia is responsible for targeting American troops. And Trump doesn't care because he likes Putin. I don't have any other explanation. I mean, you could have a conspiracy about Putin has stuff on him. Maybe Putin has the Epstein files and knows stuff about Trump. I don't know. Maybe he has something on him. I don't think that's the case. I just think that Trump is admiring of and maybe a little afraid of Putin. You can see that when they meet, how friendly he is to Putin, like he isn't to any other world leader. Was it Felipe? Hey, Ron, what is your best book recommendation on war strategy? Not the just war theory bullshit, but actual fighting strategies and tactics. I don't have one. I mean, I can give you my favorite books about war history, but I don't really have, I haven't studied war strategy. I haven't read war strategy books. It's not my field. War history, I find interesting. And there I would recommend Victor Davis Hanson's books on the history of war. He's got a few particularly good books where he covers Patton and Sherman and Greek war. So definitely Victor Davis Hanson for the history of war. But I'm not a strategist, and I don't know. I haven't read war strategy books. James, why is no mainstream media covering that Russia launched a drone that hit Estonia power plant? I don't know. Interesting that they're not. Maybe they don't want to. I don't know. Cause fear, cause panic. But that is a real problem. And it suggests that Russia might be serious about attacking Estonia ultimately. But I will look into that story and see if I can find more info about it. James, the UK has a task force to seize Russian tankers. However, the shortage of energy, how can they afford to do so? Will they reignite their oil and gas? Well, I mean, what should happen is the UK should seize the Russian tankers, take them to UK ports and unload their oil for free in the UK. And that will alleviate some of the constraints on oil prices. It actually increase the supply, at least for the UK, of oil. I mean, the countries that seize the tankers should unload the oil in their countries. Michael, Super Chat has been much more lax in censorship lately. It's not censorship. Only the government censors. Only the government censors. Don't use the term censorship with regard to private companies. Restrictions, whatever. Anyway, allowing people to post profanity or comments on sensitive topics. Is this your influence? No, I don't think so. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not my influence. Good to hear, though. It's good to hear. All right. Let's see. ICE hate at airports is good. I agree with that. Love for TSA is not. I agree with that as well. Yeah, I mean, hate for ICE and TSA is good. I mean, I just, TSA just annoys me, and it's upsetting because we're all so used to it. We all accept it. We all just do it. We've all accepted the violation. Anyway. All right, guys. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to all the super chatters. I will be back tomorrow at the same, earlier. I'm pretty sure earlier today was a little quickie because I had to go somewhere. But yeah, tomorrow we'll also have shows on Saturday and Sunday. So don't miss out on those. Saturday's an AMA. Ask me anything. So prepare for that. Get ready with questions. I mean, there's some extent every day is an AMA. But the nice thing about Sundays is we get a panel on video asking questions. So be on the panel, participate, join the panel. You know, if you're 25 and above, join us live. It's fun. All right. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye, everybody.